A very good morning to all our esteemed participants and a very distinguished presenter and speaker, Professor Kk Pandeyji. We will start in next 2 minutes. We will start at dot 10 a.m., my dear friends. Professor Pandey, on behalf of Department of Sociology, Nizam College, Osmania University, Hyderabad, and also on behalf of Council for Green Revolution, I extend a very warm welcome to you, sir. And we will begin in just next 1 minute. The Department
Yeah.
of Sociology, Nizam College, Osmania University initiated the national webinar series on development studies on 7th of August. And so far, we have successfully completed 3 editions. Today is the fourth edition on the theme of governance, entrepreneurship, and development. We have very distinguished panel of speakers in today's fourth edition. Professor Kk Pandey from Indian Institute of Public Administration, New Delhi. We will be joined by Dr. Vishakha Rena, who is Associate Professor and Associate Dean, Academic School of Biotechnology, Kalinga Institute of Industrial Technology, Bhubaneswar. We will also have with us Dr. Gurpreet Singh Gill, who is Senior Faculty Consultant, School of Enterprise Development, National Institute for Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises, Hyderabad, Telangana. I deem it my pleasure to introduce to our uh, distinguished participants Professor Kk Pandeyji, who is Professor Urban Management and Coordinator Center for Urban Studies at Indian Institute of Public Administration, and he holds PhD in Urban Finance and PG Diploma in Housing Planning from Institute for Housing and Urban Development Studies, Netherlands in 1985. He also holds a 2 month course in urban management from University of Birmingham 1994, and he has also pursued a course on population studies from EWC University of Hawaii, USA. Dr. Pandey has been member of 7 UN expert committees on urban finance, governance, finance leadership, and pro-poor public-private partnership, sustainable development, and urban management. He is also member of Executive Council of IIPA and Steering Committee to revise NCR plan for National Capital Region. He is also heading study group of Government of India on economic activity in the National Capital Region. He has coordinated several empirical research, training, and advisory services on matters related to urban governance, infrastructure, and housing. He also has several publications to his credit. Professor Kk Pandey will be speaking to us on urban governance in city and city region. Sir, I once again welcome you to this webinar series, and over to you, sir. You are the co-host. You can start sharing your screen, sir. And with the courtesy of Council for Green Revolution, this webinar series is also being live streamed on YouTube. Over to you, Professor Pandey.
Okay, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Thank you very much, Vinita ji. I will cover the urbanization and economic development, the global process, and Indian follow-up. Urbanization is basically an economic function. Uh, there is a process of dispersal of economic activities, urbanization and global economies, urbanization and impact on income and employment, cities and sustainable development, Indian follow-up, and roadmap for urbanization and economic development in India are the points which I am going to uh, discuss. There is a limitation of the farm sector to provide income and employment. There are studies which show that ultimately 15 to 20% people will depend on agriculture. It is globally observed also. And uh, the surplus labor get employment in the non-farm sector of economy. Expansion of business, industry and trade is the natural phenomena of expansion of non-farm sector, and this is called structural transformation in the economy, which is happening across the world, in India also. And development and identification of cities and towns is a part of this process. Globally, it was only 3% population living in urban areas, which become 50% in 2007. For the first time, majority population in the globe started living in urban areas. And this was a result of dispersal of economic activity. Europe first got industrialized, business, industry and trade got expansion. Result was that the quality of life, infrastructure was provided, the cost was included in that process, and quality of life become costly. Once quality of life in Europe become costly, the cost of production also went up. And there is a theory that production shifts wherever cost is less. So the production shifted to US. US got highly urbanized like Europe, and cost of production went up. So the cost of production shifted to Japan. From Japan to NICS, that is newly industrialized countries, Korea, Taiwan, Hong Kong, it shifted to that region. From there to ASEAN, Association of Southeast Asian Nations, Indonesia, Philippines, Malaysia, etc. And then the turn came to South Asia and China and other south in the globe. So this is a global process of dispersal of economic activities, which has been the driving force behind the process of urbanization, which started 3% in 1800 and now is around 55%. We can also see that the share of agriculture in developed countries is now 1% in the GDP, and workforce only 3%, but level of urbanization is 82%. Similarly, in upper middle class, it is 65%, 50%. So as the level of urbanization is high, the percentage of GDP from agriculture is low across the world. And similarly, the workforce employed in the agriculture also declines along with the development. This is the process of urbanization as noted globally, and also in different regions of the world. So it is along with the development, the share of urban population is increasing. We can see the developed countries and Latin America, Asia, Africa, etc. Urbanization globally got a push in 1990s when World Summit on Sustainable Development was held in 92 at Johannesburg, which focused on environment but also on local actions. In 96, Habitat 2 was passed by the UN in Istanbul, and Habitat 2 came up with urban agenda that the settlements development depend on urban because largely the world will become urban. We had Millennium Development Goals, then we had the Rio Plus 20. 92, after 20 years in 2012, we had another World Summit in Rio, which concluded that environment is important, climate change is also important, but poverty elevation is equally important. So this was the global consensus that along with the urbanization, environmental issues are there, climate change is to be settled, and poverty is equally important. And accordingly, national reports were presented in the UN. Indicators were developed after Habitat 2 in 96. Best practices were awarded, which got a UN Dubai Award, and several Indian cases also figured in the best practices. These include SEVA, Self-Employed Women Association. These include Surat as Clean City. These include Delhi Metro. So there were several Indian cases also in the global process of recognition of urbanization and economic development. Habitat 2 in Istanbul, which recognized cities as a focal point for the first time, focused on cities to the forefront or they are engines of economic growth. Sustainable human settlements in an urbanizing world means important role of city, but it requires shelter for all, and all are linked with income and employment. The whole process of urbanization is linked with income and employment, which our census also recognizes. When the income from non-farm sector goes up to 75%, then only the one settlement is declared urban with 5,000 population and density 400 persons per square kilometer. Habitat 2 concluded that cities are engines of economic growth. Urbanization is an opportunity which the world should tap, calling for a stronger role of local authorities, that is the decentralization of power and recognizing the power of participation by different stakeholders. And it had two main themes: sustainable human settlements and shelter for all. Habitat 3 was uh, passed in 2016. It was based on UN Millennium Development Goals 2030. And Habitat 3 came up with the conclusion that the persistence of an unsustainable model of urbanization is the key issue. We have economies of scale from cities, but also have diseconomies of scale in terms of shelter, employment, income, and infrastructure. So those diseconomies need to be tackled. Increase of inequality caused by diseconomies is the key issue. Steady increase of number of slum dwellers, climate change, disaster, and negative consequences of violence and crime. So the social integration of cities is another very important issue which was recognized by Habitat 3 in 2016, and this is on the global agenda of attention. Habitat 2 and 3 therefore uh, saw a shift from the world is urbanizing to the world is urbanized, because now majority is living in urban areas, and the level of urbanization varies according to the status of development. Developed countries have more urbanization and developing countries have less. Environmental degradation, transformative power of urbanization, particularly non-farm sector, needs to be harnessed. This is the conclusion of Habitat 3. Need to focus on key thematic areas, and those include environment, climate change, and uh, poverty. Citywide approach to development focus on equity. Habitat 3, and unlike Habitat 2, came to the conclusion, or this is the global agenda now, to focus on the city as a whole not in bits and pieces, in schemes and programs, but a citywide approach is essential. Habitat 3 also concluded that global agenda for developing and developed world needs to be prepared. It was the first conference after Millennium Development Goals were passed and implementable new urban agenda was accepted by the global community. And this was the process. Barcelona 50 years back was like this, and now we can see the city of Barcelona is one of the important cities having impact of income and employment generation across the city. This was Seoul after 40 years. See the impact of economic activities made in the cities. This was Shenzhen in China. Within 30-year period, the city changed like this. And this city is New York. After 150 years, before 150, the city of New York was looking like this, and now Manhattan can be seen as one of the world's most important place. India also, whatever I said, has followed the same process. In 51, the workforce in the agriculture was 69%, which is now nearly 50%. Urbanization level is now about 35%, and GDP from agriculture, which was 56% in India in 51, has now become 14%. So there is a sharp decline in the GDP from agriculture, but the workforce has not declined in the same proportion. That means the surplus labor poverty in the rural areas is the key issue, which is again a challenge for urban areas to help the persons coming from rural areas, providing them suitable jobs. 60% workforce, 18% households have less than 1 hectare of land in our rural areas, 82% up to 1 hectare. So this is the main issue of surplus labor which needs to be tackled in our urban policies and scenario. Productivity loss because of the low land holding, natural calamities, poverty, lack of supervision of large holdings, etc., is a key issue. So, rural urban imbalance in GDP, increase in workforce, increase in share of marketing marginal workers from 9% to 25%. So this is the challenge of urban society, which we have to provide solution to the uh, workforce coming to urban areas, and disparities in the distribution of income needs to be tackled accordingly. Indian non-farm sector, more than 6 crore enterprises are there. 50% enterprises are concentrated in 5 states: Tamil Nadu, Bengal, UP, Maharashtra, and Karnataka. Total workforce is 11 crore, and worker earning 7,295 as compared to 4,000 in 2012. So the income grew by 86%, but workers grew at the rate of 3%. So the employment elasticity of income is low in urban areas, which because largely the non-farm sector is located within and around cities. So therefore, employment elasticity needs to be attended. Indian overview of structural transformation. 6 crore population was there in urban areas in 51, which is over 38 crore now. There were 3,000 urban centers, which are 8,000 plus now. Statutory towns which have city government are only 4,000. So this is another anomaly, that there are census towns nearly 4,000, nearly half of the total 8,000 urban centers. And those need to be developed as an urban area, need to be focal point for employment and income generation, need to be a service center for the rural hinterland. So this is the overview of India from rural majority society to now in 2011 census. The growth of urban areas and rural areas is similar in terms of absolute numbers. So it is not that India lives in villages only now. It is also that India lives in urban areas as well. In our process of urbanization, in 85, we saw the first turning point towards urbanization when Ministry of Urban Development was created in the Government of India for the first time. NCU was created, National Commission on Urbanization, and 74th Act was brought in 92. This is the recent 2011 census figures of urbanization process and scenario. We can see this area, the central and eastern part, is less urbanized, and that is the uh, need to be attended. This area, Bihar, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Odisha, Madhya Pradesh, Andhra, part of Andhra, is having less income, and there are more than two-thirds of aspirational districts of Niti Aayog are also located in this area. So this regional imbalance, which is a diagonal divide in the urbanization, this part, the western part is more urbanized and eastern part is less. That needs to be corrected. These are the census figures which are seen in the previous map. 2011 therefore is second turning point on urbanization, with the increase in urban and rural almost similar, and nearly 2,500 settlements were given the status of census towns, which hold the key for the development. These towns, more than two-thirds of them are in the backward states. So these are the towns which need to be given more attention through spatial dispersal of economic activities. But if we see the level of urbanization is much more if we analyze from other definitions other than the census. There it ranges from 50 to 63%. If we see the built up area and decide the level of urbanization according to that. So what we see that the urbanization and economic development are two sides of same coin. States with above average GDP also have above average urbanization, but this leads to unbalanced growth. Also paves way for a suitable urbanization policy, which is still in making. Only a draft is under circulation. And spatial dispersal of economic activity is needed. This map shows that the states which are more urbanized also have high per capita GDP converted for the development of other states through development of urban centers. That means expansion of non-farm activities, that is business, industry and trade in these states. We also see that India is undergoing a transformation. The technology is coming, scientific evolutions are taking place, and there are estimates that by 2030, India will have largest middle income group with 18% of global, 17% in China, and 16% in US. Yet in 2030, 27% Indians will cover only 4% national consumption. So this is the question of attention. This is the worry that these 27% need suitable job, need suitable employment, income, and how to arrange that would be a challenge for urban India. Further, rural population from 2027 will start declining in India in absolute terms. So that again is the focus for urban policies and urbanization. So the emerging leads what we see is imbalance and economic development and urbanization in India. Two-thirds districts are in low urbanized states, two-thirds backward districts. Spatial distribution of economic activities, spatial dispersal of economic activities needs to be taken up, and policies needs to be suitably reoriented accordingly. So what we learn from this process, the challenge for developing economies are enormous. Urbanization is inevitable, not only inevitable but desirable for the development. Economies of scale and agglomeration economies needs to be established in cities, particularly in the smaller towns. Spatial dispersal of economic activities is needed, and urbanize the urban areas is another very important focus. That is the census towns, which are nearly half. We have to really urbanize them, create city government among the census towns, and expand the non-farm sector activities. So this is what I wanted to share. Thank you very much.
Sir, thank you so much for a very, very crisp and very, very enlightening session on urbanization and urban governance and urban sociology being one of the emerging areas globally. Your presentation is very, very apt, sir. Sir, with your permission, there are few questions which I would like to ask you on behalf of the participants. Few questions are there in the chat box, sir. Should I go ahead, sir, Professor Pandey?
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure, sure.
yeah. Sir, there's question from Kiran that Japan, New York, and other countries have developed very fast, but India's development is slow. What are the reasons, like, according to you?
India's development is slow because we have not uh, adopted a policy of balanced regional development.
Yes,
Urbanization is concentrating in certain states, and
yes.
other states have not given due attention towards the process of urbanization. So this uh, is an issue to be tackled.
Okay, sir. There is another question from Dr. Sandesha. She asks that in your presentation you have mentioned that central and eastern India is not urbanized. What reasons like are you seeing for this? Why it is not as equally urbanized as other parts?
Yeah. I have also shown that the states where urbanization is more as compared to central and eastern states also have high per capita income,
Yes,
which
sir.
means the business and industry sector has grown at a faster rate, much faster rate among Maharashtra, Gujarat, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, as compared to Odisha, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, part of Madhya Pradesh and West Bengal and Northeast region.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. There's one more question from Mrs. Kalpana. She asks why urbanization and not urbanization is promoted. And she has one more question, sir. Mere imitating Western images of city can lead to urbanization in true sense. When majority depends on agriculture, then why rural areas are ignored? Who will feed India if rural India will look not interesting to youth population?
So I will take a second question first.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
In India, uh, urbanization has not been taken up because uh, as we have seen across the world, there is a limit. The rural population uh, dependence on agriculture will decline. Agriculture will not be able to hold more than 20% population. We still have 50% depending on agriculture. So we have to find ways and means that those living in rural areas find suitable employment in non-farm sector, not necessarily in Delhi or Mumbai, but in the nearby smaller towns. So there is a need to expand non-farm sector across the country, which has not been done so far. So the focus for our urban policies should be to develop local economic activities in the smaller towns, in the census towns, so that the surplus labor coming from the hinterland is getting job and income uh, in the nearby locations.
Okay, sir. Thank you,
And
sir.
in this regard,
Yes, sir.
the development of infrastructure, development of roads, highways also is very important. And the current government's schemes and policies of highway development or the state government's policy to develop state highways should be linked with the industrial location also. And industrial, big industries and supporting industries, small industry, the whole chain has to be developed.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. In fact, there are many questions. My next question is on behalf of Hakim Singh, who asks, don't you think that it's urban and rural divide that has hampered the development? Today, we only talk about smart cities but not smart villages. And he further asked, don't you think that it's, yeah, the same question, sir, like why we talk about smart cities and not of smart villages?
So we should talk about smart villages also, and
Yes, sir.
government is providing connectivity, internet connectivity to all the villages, roads, electricity. But the question is, once village is developed and village is expanded with the non-farm sector activities, it will become urban. So uh, there is no contradiction. There is no fight between urban and rural. Both should develop, but ultimately it will be dependence on non-farm sector.
Yes, sir. I think a similar question was from Mr. Shrikant and Manpreet also. And there is one more question. I think this will make the last question, sir, because our next speaker also has joined. This question is from Jamilu Rabiu. The process of globalization through activities of multinational corporations is gradually resulting in farmers losing their farmland, especially in Africa, and as a result many youth migrate to urban center with little or no skills. What is the way out, sir? This is the question.
So for this, a proper land policy is needed that the uh, industry sector should get land at such a place which has water, but which is not affecting farmers also. So both aspects need to be uh, taken into consideration.
Yes, sir. Yes, we have quite a few international participants also sharing their African experiences. Sir, now my last question to you is: you spoke about national urbanization policy, sir, which is still in the draft state. So, what are your expectations from the national urbanization policy?
Policy is emerging in bits and pieces. There is a policy of fecal sludge. There is a policy of street vendors. There is a national housing policy. But there is a need to consolidate all the policies, and there should be national urban policy.
Sir, so
Which,
like there is
which
need to
the
consolidate.
process is slow. The draft is there, but I hope it will be finalized.
Okay, sir. Okay. Sir, thank you so much, sir, for a very, very crisp presentation and also very patiently responding to all our queries and observations. In fact, it is very rare that we come across a person of your, academic caliber. So I thank you, sir, on behalf of Department of Sociology, for joining us today and enlightening us on a very, very critical aspect of the globalization, which is urbanization. Thank you so much, Professor
Thank
Kk
you very much.
Pandey, for
It is
being
my
part
pleasure.
of this. Yes, sir. So, with your permission, now I would like to move on to our next speaker,
Sure.
Madam. Thank you, sir. Madam Vishakha Rena. In fact, in one of the courses, FDP courses, I heard Madam's presentation, and when I was planning for this particular edition, I thought this edition will be incomplete without presence of Madam Vishakha Rena. Most of you will agree with me after you listen to Madam's presentation. Madam Vishakha Rena is Associate Professor at School of Biotechnology, KIT, Odisha. She completed her bachelor's and master's degree in zoology with specialization in cell and molecular biology at University of Delhi. She also has a bachelor's in education from University of Delhi. Later, she fulfilled her PhD in molecular biology at University of Delhi, during which she was a visiting fellow at EPFL Lausanne, Switzerland. Later, she joined at Swiss Federal Institute of Aquatic Science and Technology, Dubendorf, Switzerland, as a postdoctoral fellow. In 2007, she joined as assistant professor in KIT, Odisha, and was one of the co-founding members of School of Biotechnology. Currently, she is an associate professor with School of Biotechnology. Her areas of research interest are biodegradation and bioremediation of xenobiotic compounds, microbial ecology of natural ecosystems for microbial biodiversity, and bioprospecting using genomics and study of biogeochemical cycles for understanding global climate change, and also production of biofuels like biodiesel and bioethanol from waste cooked vegetable oil and cooked food waste by using green chemistry and microbial enzymes. She is also interested in issues relating to environment, especially waste management and food safety. Madam Vishakha Rana is also managing director and co-founder of Kriya Food and Beverages Private Limited, which is a manufacturing startup motivated to create a unique state of art bakery and confectionery products club to creating innovation and sustainable technologies for developing safe foods by use of enzyme biotechnology. Madam has more than 13 years of teaching experience, and apart from her teaching research, she also aims at mentoring students for social and sustainable innovations, developing innovative solutions to environmental problems, and to promote sustainable biotechnological process in waste management. Madam Vishakha Rana will be talking about the theme from workbench to enterprise, lessons from the entrepreneurial journey. So I extend a warm welcome to Madam Vishakha Rana. Madam, over to you.
Thank you very much. Very good morning to everyone, one and all. At the outset, I would like to thank Dr. Vinita Pandey for inviting me to this edition of fourth edition of Governance and Entrepreneurship. And I would be happy to share my experiences and motivate people who are willing to go into entrepreneurship, and also develop policies or models for sustaining the environment. When Dr. Vinita Pandey invited me and she said I'm from sociology department, then I thought that I'm a researcher, and how I fit in sociology field. I'm maybe I'm a misfit there. Would I be able to put my presentation there? Will it fit in that environment? But then she said that yes, there are a lot of people who can learn from the experiences of other people. So from my experiences, I'm really a small-time researcher, not very big, but I love to do research. I always thought of working in the laboratory, and doing my shake flux experiments, etc. But somehow there is something which you call it as an entrepreneurial bug, which people can have. And that entrepreneurial bug can make you foray into different fields which you have not tread before. And during this entire journey, from where I went from the laboratory to create an enterprise and learn from this experience, there have been many ups and downs. But in an aspect like this, it's enriching for me, as well as I would be happy to share this experience with others. So I'm going to speak on workbench to enterprise and lessons from my entrepreneurial journey. So not before I thank all the people who have been with me and are still there during this journey. So there have been several funding agencies, people who have motivated me to go into entrepreneurship, and also are still motivating me on how to get ahead, learn new things, which are really, I have not got a degree in that, but I have got learning experience from my experiences. And I have a lot of students from whom also I learn. So there are many collaborators from India and abroad, funding agencies, the university where I'm working, the chief patron, Dr. Samanta, he has been very inspirational and always handheld us from taking up difficult paths even. So I would like to thank them before I go ahead. Now, I'm going to tell you three stories, and I'm going to connect those stories in a way which explains that how I went from the laboratory into the entrepreneurship field. And I learned the process of how to manage, as well as manage my research and entrepreneurship, and then find the solutions to problems where we can benefit the society at large. So basically, I work on microorganisms, and my area of interest is organisms, microorganisms, which are from natural ecosystems. So I come from the eastern part of India, from a state of Odisha. Although I am from a different state in India, but I somehow I have been into the state. And before I came to Odisha, everyone used to tell me it's very poor, there is no facility, there is nothing. But as I will explain, that despite having a lot of problems, you can make your own niche, and problems will always be there. We have just heard the lecture just before this. It was a very interesting presentation for me also, and learning experience for me also, that many questions came up, that why we cannot create smart villages. So that's where innovation lies. We have to think creatively. We can't just copy one model from somewhere and then paste it somewhere. It doesn't work out like that. So I work on an interesting environment which is called as Chilika Lake, which is a biodiversity region on the east coast of India, in Odisha, which is backwaters. And this place is a very touristic location, having a lot of birds coming from Russia and other parts of the world, and it's a tourist location. And since I am in love with nature, I was interested to work in such an environment. So apart from this, I also work on other natural ecosystem, aquatic ecosystems like Loktak Lake in Manipur, So Chilika Lake is a brackish water lake, saline, but Loktak Lake is a freshwater lake. And so organisms which can be found here can be very unique, and maybe I can derive some innovation which can be of some use to humankind. So we try to isolate microorganisms and we try to study them and get some useful things out of these microorganisms with which biotechnological innovations can be made, and then it can be brought to common man who can use them. They might not even know that it comes from microorganisms. But now, really, when we talk about natural ecosystems, they are facing a lot of problems. If I only talk about Odisha, then there are a lot of problems which are coming from the change in the climate. And as you must be aware that because of the climate change, there have been several hurricanes and cyclones and tornadoes all over the world, and Odisha has not been spared either. So starting from 1999, Odisha has been seeing a lot of serious cyclones which are causing severe destruction in the coastal areas. So my first cyclone where I was exposed to was in 2013, and it was one of the also one of the devastating ones. And then there was another one in 2014. Last year we had Cyclone Fani, and then this year we had Amphan. So this year we are not devoid of we have list of problems going on. But cyclones are very common in the state of Odisha, and they whatever work you do to for upliftment of the state, there is one cyclone and then all that comes back to zero and you are back to the pavilion again. So natural disasters can also cause development, whether it is rural development or urban development, and they can bring you back to square one. And that's where a lot needs to be done so that we are able to live with the natural disasters and still not be affected by them. Like Japan, they have a lot of earthquakes, but they don't get, their economy doesn't get affected. But because they have found out solutions to sustain in difficult environments or in natural disasters. So in ecological regions like Chilika, because of cyclones, there are several microbial species which have changed, plant species which have changed. One of those plant species is Phragmites carca, which I was interested in. And there is a government-based organization, which is the Chilika Development Authority, who works on the maintenance and the sustenance of this lake. And they said that there is an invasive weed in the lake and we want to cut it, and we just want to destroy it because it is eating up the lake. So they came to us that what can we do? And someone said you can burn it, you can pour acid or you can pour pesticides, but then again not sustainable. So here where when they came to us, we said that why not use such kind of problematic plants. If you are facing problem with them, why can you not use and create and then make innovation out of them? So I discussed this with some of my students, and they said why can't we make something out of it? And they actually biologically engineered a paper made out of the biomass you got from the invasive weed. So they took this plant and converted handmade paper out of it using biological enzymes. And they were recognized by DST, Lockheed Martin, and they got MSME grants. And they were able to develop a small company where they are providing an alternative source of livelihood for the local tribal community, because after all, they don't have anything apart from fishing. They are not having an alternative livelihood source. So this became another interesting discovery, that right from a problem, we bought a solution, and then we involved a larger community, that is the fishermen community, and developed some livelihood for them using some innovation and being a little bit of creativity. So that's first part of my talk. The second part is that we know that the world is going through an energy crisis. Now the population is increasing, the demand for energy is increasing, and with projections over the next 20 to 30 years, we are seeing that there's going to be a huge energy consumption jump by almost 50%. And most of this energy demand is going to come from the most populated countries like China and India. And we are going to face a lot of problems. So we need alternative fuels. Uh, uh, Problems come from society only, and we have to find solutions. So always the society, one sector cannot find solutions. They have to come from different sectors, and that's where multidisciplinary sciences and multidisciplinary thoughts have to come together and brainstorm, and then only the problems for solutions can come up. So there have been many concerns due to energy problems because of pollution, climate change, etc. So biofuels are in environmental science considered to be alternative energy sources, where you can substitute crude oil and use them instead of them. So in theory, we study about these biofuels, like first generation, second generation, third generation, and fourth generation biofuels, and they are focused either on plant biomasses or oil seeds or algae or genetically engineered microorganisms. So my area of interest was diesel, because diesel is an industrial fuel, and it is very important in the industry. So Rudolf Diesel, who first tried to use vegetable oil for running his engine, later on shifted to fraction of petroleum, already said that you can use vegetable oil. So there are many properties which diesel requires, and these properties, if you are able to attain, you can make a fuel which can substitute it. And one of those is biodiesel, which you can convert by taking vegetable oils from plants and convert it into a structure by chemical process, which will be called as biodiesel. And you can blend biodiesel with diesel to reduce its carbon emission. So there is a chemical reaction which can do this. And my source material, which I wanted to what I wanted to convert into biodiesel, was waste cooking oil. Waste cooking oil is hazardous for health, and there is a food versus fuel debate, that if we try to use food-based oil like soybean oil, sunflower oil, palm oil, we want to eat that. So our priority is food, not fuel first. So we should use that kind of raw material which does not compromise our food. So any kind of non-edible oil would be good. But I focused more on waste cooking oil, which comes from different factories, from restaurants, small time eateries and all. And if you use that oil excessively, it leads to several problems within the health, developmental problems, etc. So waste cooking oil is always available. You don't need any land to go, and you don't need any upstream process which is required. We don't need to grow anything here. You are not spending time or money or manpower on it. It is always being produced. So our mission was to create a strategy for production of biodiesel from cooking oil. So I was interested in waste management as well as creation of alternative fuel for energy generation. So we tried to develop a method of doing that. The process of converting waste cooking oil into biodiesel is already known. This is a process with the chemical reaction is already known, but you have to standardize according to the type of oil which you get. This is the quality of oil, as you can see on the screen, we generally use, and the process has to be standardized for converting this oil into a biodiesel, which can be used in transportation. It can be used for in generators, etc. So the strategy was that we collected several waste cooking oil from different establishments, from restaurants, hotels, processing factories, etc., and converted it. So again, here I made a team, and this team was for the bioenergy unit we have at KIT University, from where I'm placed. And I have these group of students, and they told me that can we do this and make a company out of it? I said, come on, I am just a researcher. I'm happy doing research, making thesis, and then putting those thesis in the laboratory, in the library, and so that someone can refer to them. Why do you want to go into business? And then students only, who have so much energy, they say that no, I think we should bring whatever technology we develop in the laboratory, we should bring it to the masses and make it available as a product. So there was a team, and later on I'll talk about one of the students, how we got connected. So we did some research, and we developed a process, and then finally we had to fight to get money, because ultimately if you want to develop the solution for a problem, you need money for it. And then from a laboratory scale, we were able to somehow go on a pilot scale up to 100 liters, and we were able to produce enough amount of biodiesel so as to use it for generators. It could be used in vehicles, diesel vehicles, as well as for diesel butties, and make a company out of it. So we tested all of these biodiesel in different applications which it can be used. So why did we make such an initiative? Because as you know, in the current situation, we are having a pandemic. And although there is not much of fuel being used, because there are very few cars and buses, and industries are not working, etc. But you see, the diesel prices are still rising. And around the world, diesel is less costly than around the world, diesel is more expensive than petrol. But in India, diesel generally was always less costlier than petrol because it is subsidized. But in today's day, the diesel and petrol's price is almost equal, and the price of diesel is rising every day. So in Bhubaneswar, where I'm there, you have almost touching 80 rupees a liter. In Delhi, it's almost 73, but some time back it was 81. So in the university where I'm there, there are almost 40 canteen. Consumption is almost 50,000 liters in 6 months, and sometimes even more, with many events going on. So you can use this biodiesel for several applications, and one of the applications is use of this biodiesel at a boiler unit in the tribal university. So the university where I'm placed, there is a Kalinga Institute of Social Sciences, which is the only tribal university in India and probably the world, the exclusive tribal university. It was a school, but now it provides accommodation, study, food, healthcare to almost now 30,000 tribal children. And they have a kitchen where morning, evening, afternoon, they eat food, cook food, the children cook the food, and they consume that much amount of food. So where is that food cooked? Food is cooked in big containers and boilers, which uses biodiesel, which we are generating from waste cooking oil. So again, I would like to focus that we have a problem. We try to find a solution, and then it fits in, the solution tries to fit in somewhere where the problem is very big, and it gives you an easy solution. So there is state of art mechanized kitchens where the food is cooked, and this was also featured in mega kitchens in National Geographic, where they show you when food is being cooked at very large quantities, etc. So the outcomes of the project were that there was zero waste which was generated in the entire process. There was 90% conversion of the waste cooking oil into biodiesel, and there were some byproducts which were generated, like glycerol and floor cleaners and soap, etc., which could also have further uses in the industry. So the cost of the diesel which we produced, biodiesel, was about 35 to 40 liters rupees per liter, and it gave a sustainable solution. So now we are trying to upscale and trying to make it at a state level by improving the efficiency and by supply chain management. What I want to mention here is that if we are able to solve a problem at just university level by collecting waste oil only from the university, you can imagine what would happen if you have to collect oil from the entire city, and then at state level, and probably at country level. So Government of India has also developed some initiatives which is called as RUCO, that is repurposed used cooking oil. So whoever has a lot of waste oil generated in their establishment, they can deposit it at a government center, and government collects that waste oil. In a process, it can be converted into biodiesel and then supplied in the diesel which you buy at a petrol pump. So this is what government of India is also doing, and these processes require involvement of several people, and you need innovations constantly. So this is the second part of my talk. I have been patronized by many funding agencies and of course PhD students. So it's important to mention this project was actually a dissertation project for this boy Rahul Chatterjee. It was a dissertation project, and again I thought that just making a dissertation and putting in the library doesn't make sense. I think we should go ahead. So the third part of my talk focuses on opening an industry or a startup. So I'm interested in food, and starting with food, again, this student of mine, he motivated me and brought out problems which we try to find solutions. So I have a company called Kriya Foods and Beverages, and we try to make safe foods, produce healthy foods by doing some intervention. So we got some grants from Msme, and we are just clicking 5 years now. But since we are a startup, we are having teething problems to start as well. But nevertheless, we have learned a lot in this process. So this is my team, and again, this is the same boy, Rahul Chatterjee. So he was instrumental in the starting the biodiesel project as well as in my food company. So I opened the company along with him. I said, "You are giving the idea, so let's start a company myself." So we formed a team, and we are a manufacturing startup. We make unique state-of-the-art bakery and confectionery products. So we have a plant and machinery, and we are supported by many agencies like NSDDB, MSME, technology business incubators, etc. So this is our team and plant size. But what exactly we are doing? There are bakeries at the nook and corner of every city. So what is unique about our process? And this is where I would like to share a video. I hope it's audible.
Yes, madam, it is audible. Can you please increase the volume, madam? Rana, madam, it is not audible.
So I don't know whether there was some problem with the audio, but the video explained about the problem which we are actually working on. The problem is that the baked foods we generally buy in the market, they are produced using several food additives which can be carcinogenic. And one of the carcinogen is acrylamide. Acrylamide is a dietary carcinogen which is produced when any food is burnt at a very high temperature. So our innovation is that we try to reduce the content of acrylamide when the food is being processed in the industry, with minimum use of food additives and preservatives, which are actually harmful for the food which is finally being made. So there is a science. There is a science behind this process, and this dietary acrylamide is harmful for the health of children, of infants which are still in the womb, etc. So there is a limit to the acrylamide which is found in the food processing process. So this needs to be removed. And so in our innovation, since I have a company also, I try to incorporate this innovation in my company so as to make the process safe, and the food which is being produced is also safe for the consumers. Now, this is again a problem, and we have tried to find a solution. So for finding any solution, before you try to address the problem, you need to show whether it is working in the real life or not, which is what is called as the proof of concept. So you have a concept that I have a problem and I have a solution. So, but you cannot tell anyone that whether the problem is working or not unless you have a prototype or something which explains to the other person that the problem can be solved with this particular solution. So there are many stages of government funding which try to help you to get funds where you can try to show whether the concept is working or not. And once your proof of concept works, then you have to optimize the entire process and then scale up the process so that you can show its feasibility. So there are different processes by which we have been able to show that our process is marketable, and then it can be bought into the consumer trade. And in this, again, we have made a team of people who will help us to achieve that goal. People who are having in area of expertise in the technical field, someone who is expertise in marketing field, someone who has expertise in accounting or financial management. So there are a team of people who are interdisciplinary in nature and try to attain the problem's solution so that it can be brought to common man. So my journey from the laboratory to developing biofuels and then developing into a food industry has been enriching in this entire process. So in the last part of my talk, I would like to talk about what are the challenges which entrepreneurs who are really not entrepreneurs from the beginning have to face. So these challenges are mainly how to obtain funds to start the business. This is one of the biggest obstacles, because people get a lot of ideas. You can have a lot of ideas, you discuss with people, you find that there are problems in this and you try to find solutions. But ultimately, when you have to bring any idea into working in working and running mode, you have to find funds to start it. So since you are going to take charge of the entire process, you have to be fully responsible for the business. If anything goes wrong, you are responsible because it's a learning process. So you have to be very strong in your mind that there will be many things which will go wrong, but you will not back out. So you can feel alone and insecure. So it's very important that challenges which entrepreneurs have, for their challenges to be solved, they should have a team. So teamwork is very important, and you might have to work long hours and even face uncertain income levels, which in the current situation like a pandemic, everyone many companies, even well established companies, are also feeling that how we'll pay our employees, etc. So you should be always ready that something might go wrong, then I should have a backup plan. I should have a team to discuss, and what I'm going to do whenever there is going to be some kind of problem. So in my journey in entrepreneurship, I have learned that your innovation or the process of thinking need not be very hi-fi. It can be very simple and very basic. So how do you start thinking about innovation? It is just, you have to be curious, you have to be observational, and you have to always look at problems. So when you look at problems, you will always get ideas. If someone shares with you that I'm facing this problem, you immediately try to give a solution. You can take this, you can do this, you can do that. In the same way, we should look for problems around us and make a list of it, and those problems which interest us, we should be doing brainstorming on them. To show that your ideas work, you need to brainstorm and try to find out solutions by doing a lot of discussion and doing a lot of reading. So you need to test it and do it now. You should not have lot of 5-year and 15-year plans. You can think of even 1 year and 2 years, because in current scenario of life, landscapes change very fast. Scenarios change very fast. You might have a lot of plans for 2020, but none of those plans are currently working. So you stick to short term and near future goals and try to achieve them, and then plan for next level. So you have to work hard, and also take care that you don't burn out, and you can manage your time. So you must be able to break off and take some time off and socialize, so that it helps to clear your mind. And it's not all about you and your idea. You should always learn and then try to help people. You have seen in the current pandemic situation also, people who have a lot of privileges, they try to help other people, so that people who do not have opportunities or who do not have means to get anything, they also are benefited. So lastly, you should not only focus on your skill. Don't be a jack of all trades. You should be consistent, and always think that I should sharpen my skill, and I don't need to do everything. If you try to do everything, then you will burn out again. So you should learn to delegate work, and make a team, so that you are able to focus on one thing, one skill which you are very good at, and then you build out from there by developing your team. And you should also celebrate any small win which you have got. You should take part in social functions, and take part in competitions, take part in hackathons, idea competitions, and involve yourself in conferences, learn new things, and that helps you to get motivated and inspirational all the time. So in the last part, I'm going to just talk very briefly about KIT, Technology Business Incubator, which is an incubator which helps startup companies to start their businesses. So they have been recognized on the national level, and KIT University recently has also been recognized as one of the innovative universities, which are private and self-financed universities in the eastern zone. So it would develop an infrastructure and the environment for people who want to open businesses, whether they are coming from any field. So it can be a social enterprise also. If you want to open a social enterprise which is having an innovative idea to create smart villages, then also a technology business incubator can be of help. So they have several activities where they help you to go from incubation level to a large scale level, and they have several companies incubated within a technology business incubators. Now there are several of them all over India and abroad as well. And once a company gets success, they graduate out from the system of incubation. So from a technology business incubator perspective, there are many government fellowships which help you to go from an ideation stage to proof of concept to making a prototype and then developing at a commercial scale. So at a social level also, if you have something which enables any group of people to develop livelihood or to develop creation of a good setup in a society, then technology business incubators also help you to develop these kind of innovation. So innovation always does not mean science. It can mean any kind of innovation, whether it needs to be in the field of history, it needs to be in the field of archaeology, or even in the field of sociology. So the idea should be creative, and it should be able to create a sustainable environment around. So there are many types of innovation, and you can do innovation to change the world, change the world, and get motivated and motivate others as well. So you should always list the problems which you are trying to see, and whenever you are seeing any kind of problem, you should always see it from two different perspectives. One, the problem always looks like that there can be no solution to it, but if you work on it, then definitely the idea will help you to think of a problem in a different perspective. So what my presentation I want should be seen in this way, that from my entrepreneurial journey I have learned that you need to constantly have consistency. You cannot change in one day. You cannot change the process of thinking in one day, and every day should be a learning experience, and constantly your state of mind should be thinking about problems, and then only your mind starts to think in an innovative way. That's why it is said innovation is a state of mind. You can create problems into solution. The same umbrella can be used for preventing rain in two different ways, and so your state of mind should be constantly towards how to solve problems. So this is my take on how from a researcher to an entrepreneur. In the process I have learned the various stages. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. In fact, it is indeed a phenomenal journey from a zoologist to an entrepreneur. Ma'am, with your permission, there are few questions in the chat box which I would
Yes.
like to ask you. This question is from Dr. Priya Kumari. She thanks you for the enlightening talk, and she's asking, can we replicate the generation or use of biofuel in Osmania University, as we have many hostels where we might be generating lot of waste oil?
That's a very good question. So when we were developing this setup in our university, we had a university small industrial tour coming from the state of Tamil Nadu, and one small time college had bought their students to Odisha, and they also, we took them to our facility, and we showed them the pilot scale plant, and they asked the same question which you are asking. And you know what? Before we made the whole pilot scale plant working, they went back to their college and they started their own biofuel unit. So it is possible to do it. It is not a very hi-fi science. It's only that you need teamwork, you need supply chain, you need to collect oil, you need to develop a process, and you need, of course, some money to do it. So it's definitely possible. There is no one which can stop you if you're really willing to do it.
Yes, madam. There is another question from Mr. Yash Pandey. He asks, can we generate biofuel at home?
Yes, it can be done, but you should have enough of raw material to do that.
Okay, okay.
At home, we do not generate that much amount of waste oil. In one or two times, we will finish that off. But when you want to
Yes,
generate
yes,
it on a larger scale, then you need more amount of. So that can be done on a big scale only and collected
yes,
from
yes.
restaurants.
Ma'am, there is another query from Dr. Priya. She asks, we have an energy conservation club in our college where our students can learn simple techniques. If you can offer some training programs. So, is there any provision of training programs from your side, ma'am?
Yes, we can do that. That's not a problem. We can do training programs. That's Perfectly fine.
Okay,
Yes.
then on this we will definitely get back to you, ma'am. Because these are certain things which will really go a long way in not
Yes.
only in energy conservation but also, using lot of waste oil for a very very good purpose.
Yes.
Ma'am, there is another question. You spoke about upscale to produce biofuel at state level. Then
Yes.
what are the steps which has to be taken in this regard?
So there has to be a supply chain management. It's a different field, really not science, but it's governance, it's management, and in this there has to be policy change at the state level. Then only this problem can be solved. So at present we are doing at a very at small levels, in universities or maybe a small city, an area level. So till now, Government of India has opened this initiative. You can check on the internet. It's called RUCO, RUCO, where they try to collect waste oil in large scale containers, and then you can also provide biodiesel, and then it is stored. And at government level, where the diesel is distributed in petrol pumps, it is blended along with diesel. So if you want to do it at a state level, that calls for policy change, the biofuel policy change at the state level and also at the central level. So if that policy change occurs, then all vendors will be very much willing to provide waste oil, and they will not use that waste oil again and again for developing hazardous food. Street food which you eat on the footpath is actually not good for health, because it is not the oil which they have bought from the supermarket. It is the oil which they have procured, the waste oil which they have procured from a restaurant, free of cost, and which is what they burn and then provide the food to you. That's why it's not good. So it's a health policy which the country has to develop, that you should not sell any product which is fried in waste cooking oil. So if this policy changes occur at state level policy and central level policy, then these problems can be solved at the state level. So these things are being solved, and people at governance level, they are aware of these issues. However, there are always bottlenecks on how to solve. There has to be more number of people trying to shout that, yeah, this is a problem and we want to change it.
That's true, ma'am. A lot of initiatives being taken to develop new innovations and technologies. Ma'am, there is one more question. Did you receive any support from Startup India?
Yes, we are part of Startup India.
Okay, ma'am. And now the last question, because our next speaker has already joined us. Ma'am, this
Yes.
is the last question. What has inspired you to take up entrepreneurship from being a zoologist?
Yeah, I think the one, it has to be in your DNA somewhere. A bug, you get it as an infection, and
Yeah.
the other thing is that you don't want to stagnate. When you get a degree, get PhD, you can teach in a college, or you can be a professor, etc. After you attain that stage, then what beyond that? So you have to keep
That's
on growing. So entrepreneurship is another next level, where you can. It's difficult, but you go. So it's just like playing a game. You just play level one. You're not happy being champion of level one. You want to go to
yes.
level two, but it's more challenging. You go to
Yes.
level five, it's more challenging. So it's the thrill of going through challenges which motivates.
And that's true, ma'am. That's true. So, ma'am, I once again thank you. Despite, I think there were some connectivity issues from your side,
Yes,
but despite that, you joined us, and believe me, ma'am, I was very much inspired by your talk as part of that FDP, and I am very very confident that our participants in this webinar series, or through Zoom, and also it is being live streamed on YouTube, they will definitely get inspiration, and many of us are willing to get back to you for getting some training for the same, madam.
sure,
So
sure.
thank you
We'll
so
be
much,
happy.
and I hope that such entrepreneurship will go a long way in making India more self reliant, and it supports the issue of Atmanirbhar Bharat.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Dr.
Thank you very
Vishakha
much.
Rana, madam. So
Thank you.
with yeah, so with your permission, madam, I would like to invite our next speaker of today's edition, Dr. Gurpreet Singh Gilgi who is a senior faculty consultant with National Institute of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprise. Dr. Singh has more than 25 years of industry and research experience. He is alumni of JNU, Jawaharlal Nehru University, Indian Institute of Remote Sensing, as well as Indian Institute of Foreign Trade, Delhi. He has worked with various organizations, including NIMSME. He was also head research in geospatial world, head remote sensing and GIS in Ridings Consulting Engineers India Limited. He was research consultant with National Institute of Technology and Development Studies. He was also technical instructor with Rolta. He has executed various projects in geospatial information technology, social sectors. He has done capacity building and also completed various consultancy projects both with government and private sector. Dr. Singh will be elaborating and he will be presenting on entrepreneurship for development role of MSME with special focus on MSME schemes and special focus on Sfurti, which is scheme of fund for regeneration of traditional industries for rural entrepreneurs. So Dr. Gill, on behalf of Department of Sociology, Nizam College, as well as Council for Green Revolution, Hyderabad, who are our technical partners, we extend a very warm welcome to you. And over to you now, Dr. Gill.
It was very inspiring to hear from Vishaka Madam uh, how a educationist become entrepreneur with the same aim. I also joined because for last 25 years I was working in the field of GIS information technology, and I was working in all small cities and everything. And now I joined the Msme, National Institute of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises, where I can make the things happen at the grassroots level. Listening to the Vishaka Madam, there's a story of a famous car company. What she was telling about the innovation, the resolute of the entrepreneur, how to survive against all odds. There was a company in Japan when it was before my presentation. I just wanted to share that. And the first year, what happened is like they're all financials. It is called the backward linkages and everything. Their suppliers, everything they got bust. But somehow the management said, okay, let us keep going. And another 3 4 years some incident happened where the fire broke out, and again the every thing they have invested there, the company got burned out and everything was destroyed. Most of us will leave entrepreneurship after these two disasters, but the owner of that company went ahead. Another thing happened, like they were preparing initial stages some parts. When they tried to export, the whole consignment was rejected, and again, there was a big problem for them. That was a third major shock. Another shock was there some incident which I cannot recollect. But another fifth, again, there was a big financial bust, and it was the company would have closed. But after this five biggest disaster, again the company management thought, and no, we have to keep going. They were determined. They were very uh, devoted to their cause, and we know, everyone in the world knows their name now. The company is called the Honda. So that is all in nutshell about the entrepreneurship. It is never going to be easy, but this last 2 decades, due to the IT, we have been very successful in IT world over because of our services. But as you know, a current PM, he is emphasizing on Atmanirbhar because large population, our Indian population, lives in rural areas. And in rural areas, there are various schemes which I'll cover in the later on. I am just giving a brief intro about the entrepreneurship and how it involve, and then I'll come to the MSME schemes and few of other government organization which are working in MSME. So a little bit of MSME data and the schemes. So the word entrepreneur is derived from the French word entrepreneur. In the French, we always the vowels are always pronounced. So entreprendre, it means to undertake and literally translate between taker and go between. So entrepreneur, who is entrepreneur? Entrepreneur is an individual who takes and starts something new. It is very simple to explain, but you should, within your heart and desire, you should have a strong will to go ahead and strong belief, okay, like what I am thinking, what I am doing, it is going to be successful. If there's any doubt, then that's why there's a major large number of startups are failing, because somehow they're very exuberant to begin with, and after some time these exuberance just fades out, and the startup fails. Entrepreneurship is the process of creating something new with a value of devoting the necessary time and effort. The corona has already changed everything, and now after some time we'll call before corona and after corona. This is the time when major small business were shut down, but few people uh, wanted to take advantage of this situation, because all these challenges also give you the opportunity to think beyond your comfort zone, out of the box, and then these things can come. And you will be happy to know, like in March, the India was net importer of all the PPEs. But within 2 months of this setup of various initiative of government and industry, and the interface of that, we were able to export 5 million PPEs in the month of June. So that's how like this is a current setup, and we have to believe this young generation is very very positive about it. And now I think the coming 2 decades and 3 decades will be the decades of entrepreneurship in India. Uh, so I am also touching about the basic functions of entrepreneur. The first word, it was already mentioned by Vishaka ma'am. One is the innovation. So what is the innovation? Unexpected success or failure, or any expected outside event. Because when you are having an innovation, you have to have also, it is not like, for example, somebody who invented rocket. The aim was the rocket should go up, but when we are doing entrepreneurship, we also have to keep into account what if it happens, it fails. So these are all inputs we have to have in innovation, and have to have in entrepreneurship when we are thinking of a long term. Innovation based on process need, the changes in industry and market structure, as I recently explained about that corona, because sometime out of the things which I have never even thought before, okay, this is going to happen, and everything it changes. uh, we are having a very large population, and we are there's almost 50%, more than 50% of people there less than 50 years of age. This is such a large workforce we are having, and we are not creating enough jobs, because few decades back, when we were kids and in schools, we were only taught by our parents to be engineers and doctors. But now there are more than 300 trades. Even if you do MBA, they'll have 100 different type of MBAs. That sort of diversification is happening. So now it is very important, like we all, as we educate, as you have already heard, and there's a great example of Vishaka Madam and other people, those who are doing a great work. It is always important to think of the entrepreneurship from the 10th and 12th onward, so that when we are into that workforce, we are not only dependent on something. We also have a there's a recent example in Maharashtra of some IIT Bombay graduate started the agriculture production of a Msme, and his 1 acre income was 17 lakhs. So that sort of entrepreneurship we are expecting from our young and educated class. I'll I'll move to another thing called organization building. So when we are talking about entrepreneurship, I'll be jumbling from here and to the scheme. So please apologize. I apologize for that. organization building, perception of market opportunities. These point we can discuss, but from these presentation, I'll also switch off and on from the various scheme and examples so that you can correlate between what has been taught and how it is things are happening on the ground. So I'll move to another slide. These are basically what are the type of entrepreneurs, because classification according to the type of business entrepreneurs, trading entrepreneurs, industrial, these all things are very, very common, and everyone is aware of that, so I'm not going to talk in detail. Then there is a classification according to the use of technology, and technology entrepreneur, professional entrepreneurs. There are a lot of students which are joined in this webinar. And when I was a student also, I used to wonder, and I even today question so many people, we are the IT superpower, but we have not made any software till now, because all the words and even Microsoft CEO is ours, and Google is CEO is also Indian. But I think this young people, those who are listening online, or various IITs, definitely going to come up with the Indian IT, say entrepreneur, big entrepreneur on the global scale. And that's why the Ministry of MSME have thought a very unique idea, and they have created a website called Champions of the Champions. So the aim is, because any government aim should be to, give a leverage to platform to the entrepreneurs, where they can, link to, they can have a backward and forward linkages. What I mean to say backward linkages is your workforce, your labor, your finances. And the forward linkages, where we were lacking, and most of the startups and some things have failed because of that, was marketing. We know a very big company, the Amazon. They have tied up with Saheli and other rural entrepreneurs, where they are marketing their products, and they have already marketed around $2 billion worth of their products to the world market. And still there's a lots and lots of the way to go, because in the vision of $5 trillion economy, the $2 trillion economy is only going to dependent on the Ministry of MSME. So it is very, very important to have a very coherent ecosystem of entrepreneurs. And you all know, because I also am aware and also touch with that, because maximum benefits are going to be from the rural entrepreneurship. Another classification according to the motivation, as I said, like any entrepreneur, even if you're a job, if you're not motivated, half of the job is very difficult to done. And if you're motivated, I mean, your efficiency is improved, you're able to do great with your job, with your task at hand. So classification according to the motivation: pure entrepreneur, it could be induced entrepreneur, as I said, like when there's a big pandemic, anything happens, all the entrepreneurs want to go to the one side. At present, I know a lot of hundreds of entrepreneurs are going for that sanitizers, and we are also forgetting to wash our hands with soaps, and instead we are shifting to the sanitizer. But these things are all mushrooming, will go for, go off the block very soon. So one has to be very careful when all those thing. This is also a part of a spontaneous entrepreneur. Then another thing is classification according to the growth entrepreneur, super growth entrepreneur. And then there can be a classification of entrepreneur stages. Like, for example, first generation entrepreneur, maybe your parents were, and you wanted to be entrepreneur now, so you wanted to go ahead. Every parent's desire is that their children should be in their profession, and that is also one of the driving force. But it is not necessarily. But now majority of the youth has to shift from the core of services to the entrepreneurship. And there are lots and lots of scheme, but maybe there's a lack of awareness, because most of the time in internet we are spending most of our time in social media, where we have to be very, very cautious, because internet is such a big thing. We should not call it as an entertainment. For me, for majority of motivators, it is a information highway. So whatever you want, if you want to make a, a beginning in a grassroots level, you can find all sort of information there. If you want some technology, you can use, you can learn a lot like AI, IoT, and machine learning, anything. So there's a request, especially to the to the students who have joined. So kindly, focus your energy so that you can be a entrepreneur, and rather than sitting in the line of the people who said this present government or the former government haven't done thing. Like it is time where we should devote our energy and try to do something for this nation in any form, and by taking, there's a very big investment in a scheme called PMEGP, like Prime Minister Education Employment Guarantee Program, where a person who is even if the 10th pass or 12th pass, they can procure the loan of around 25%, 25 lakh, and there's a subsidy of 20 to 25 lakh on that. So even if you are a group of friends, so I think that you should pool your resources, five of you combine together, have the dreams, and start small entrepreneurship. That should be the dream when you are doing into the graduation or something like that. Rather, those who are successful, they're Italian, they can go for IIT and IIMs and all those. No, but there's no dearth of that. But it is always better to start this entrepreneurship and learn the ups and downs, and so that will be a big learning experiences to everyone. And then put your stories on the YouTubes and everything, and then there will be so many learning experiences. So another this slides I want to touch stages of entrepreneur process. The what process I conducting opportunity analysis, and then developing the plan and setting up the economy, acquiring financial partners and sources of funding. So this is the third point, where even if you're students and you want to start the entrepreneurship, the maximum problem doesn't happen when the entrepreneurship is starting. The maximum problems always happen when the one of you are exiting. So our entry and exit point, as far as the finances are concerned, has to be very crisp. you know it is great to have lot many friends, but we should not fight with each other when there's a losses on in a business. That sort of your coherence is very very important. And another fourth point is determining resources required and implementing the plan. So that is another, because there are a couple of one or two slides I have for business plan. So that day, Chief Secretary of Telangana, he was explaining just analysis of top 50 startups, why they have failed. So there were two very important questions, important point in that entrepreneurship. One was the uh, third point, acquiring financial partners and sources of funding. This is major issues with the startup, because the finances are not secured as per the business plan, and if the business plan doesn't work the way you have emphasized, then there's a big problem. And because the interest shoots up, your timelines are go haywire, and then that is also one of the reason why the startup fail. And another is determination. Very strong point where startup fail was determining resources required and implementing the plan. Because most of the, if the business plans are not thought of in detail, and everything is not thought in detail with the partners, with the mentors, because there's another organization which are mentoring a lot of students. You may have heard about the BYST. They're doing free of cost and online. You can the request to students, like those who are passed in graduate, done graduation, or those who have done post graduation, they can log on to BYST. There's a private organization who started in which started in England. So they are having a lot of mentors. So small startups, if you want to start in cities and in rural areas, you can always go for their mentorship. And of course, those who are close to, like the Vishaka madam there, in the university, if you have a one-to-one session with the teachers, you can go there and learn all these things. But it is very very important to have that bent of mind in India, uh, because that is only the way which is why we which is going to grow up. Because As you know, there's a financial crisis. A lot of businesses went bust in developed countries, and we were already too much dependent on tertiary services, which we call services. But if we have a very strong entrepreneur base, so the next phase of what you say development will happen in India for sure, and it will be a widespread. It will be very inclusive. Unless we have entrepreneurship in rural, urban, and urban areas, the inclusiveness is not going to come, because then there's a lot of pressure on the cities. Professor Kk Pandey was already discussing in about that urban areas in the morning. There are lots and lots of pressure on the cities, and they are not able. The infrastructure is not able to handle so much of pressure. And with this pandemic, there are few. One of the big IT company called TCS, you are aware, they have decided that in future, in another 2 years, not in future, in another 2 years, 75% of their workforce will not working in the office but from the home. So that is another one big thing which has come after, will be there post corona. So there will be a less pressure on urban areas. We are as you are aware, we are very old civilization, more than 3 4 thousand years old, and we have lots and lots of very talented artisans. I'm going to talk a little bit about that Sufurti later on. But in every state, in every nook and corner, we have very talented artisan, but we have not promoted them to that a higher level where we should have done. That's maybe the government have started MSME champions portal, because a platform where this, for example, they're all handicraft will come on this one platform, and they'll have a Indian or do you say world market to promote our because that is our heritage, that is our strength. So those are the strength which is going to make up a global player. And, then one is the role of entrepreneurs in economic development. You know, I have already touched upon the point of services and entrepreneurship, because there's no way, no government, although we will be discussing a lot of time with the WhatsApp group. I am also one of them who discusses, but some that is also a part and parcel of our democracy. But no government can give job to such a large population, and such a large young population between say 21 years to 35 years were looking for jobs urgently. And with this pandemic, lots and lots of businesses have already closed. So entrepreneurship now will be the major, say, engine of growth for economy development. But let me assure you, but this entrepreneurship will face a lot of headwinds for another 1 or 2 years, because we don't know when the pandemic going to end. But then again, those students, those who are studying, they can use this particular time to, to increase their skill, to learn cross skills, to make yourself. Like I am also example, because I was having a lot of problem with my laptop. I was not able to log in. These are a problem. So this also give you a time when you are learning new technology, and also how to exchange your idea with the people, those who are sitting miles away, because at present we are interacting with each other sitting and across pan India. We are seeking pan India. We're discussing with each other. We are learning, a brainstorming session where we'll learn something. That is with this intent we have joined this. So this pandemic also, because in India we are having one of the cheapest data internet, so we can use it very judicially to learn some new skills, new ideas, new schemes. Interact with friends, those who are very positive, to those who have done something. Group in a group you can make some entrepreneur group, involve some inspirational teachers like Vishaka ma'am, or those who are belonging to Osmania University, who are the host, Dr. Pandey, and other people, where you can day to day you can have a group where you can have your homework, you can discuss so many things. Another thing, uh, creativity and innovation, from where the entrepreneurship comes is sources of new ideas. How the new ideas come? Sometime you have made some product, put it in a market, but it is not well accepted by the consumer. So consumers will give you the feedback, change this thing, or change this, the taste is not good. For example, if some eatable is there, or it is not very acceptable, so you can change, you'll get a new ideas from the consumer. Existing companies are also there where you can get new ideas to, to start the entrepreneurship. Then there are distribution channel, and we in India are developing, but I'll just quote the example of Canada, sorry, US, where the 50% of the things you are getting online, and less than 50% you are getting in store. And you all, like me, must have a lot of problem from in April and May. So most of people must have logged in online and trying to purchase online. Although in Hyderabad, the kirana shops were not closed, but in many states where the complete lockdown, people have faced all these things. So those who have not no knowledge of online, they were not able to place orders online. So the third point was the distribution channels were disturbed. So there are also problems of the entrepreneurship. And then the federal governments, the different governments, federal here in India means like, I'll only quote that various states. Some states are very very proactive. Telangana is also one of the very late was created, but it has come up very well in a field of e-governance. It was number one 2007 17, sorry. And then again last year it was number two. So a lot of governments are very very you must have heard a term very commonly used in media called EODB, ease of doing businesses. I have a couple of slides also where India has also improved leaps and bounds, but there's a lot much to learn and improve on these things. And the fifth point of entrepreneurship where we are lacking way behind is research and development. I will just quote uh, recently, 2 days back, I was going through a newspaper, and in which the patents filed, the total patents filed by India was around 2,300, whereas the highest number were in patents were filed by China. They were around 60,059. I may be a little off the numbers I am quoting, but it is quite near. And the second was US, which was around 57,000. But one company, Huawei from China, they filed almost 8,000 patents. And whereas we in India, we were way behind in filing patents. So this is another area where if in future, if there will be a lot of spending research and development, will be a great for that, for the education institutes, for India, and for students who can, create a new ideas and market a new product in the market. Uh, then there's another form of, what you say, creativity innovation of the entrepreneurship, where I just mentioned we are brainstorming, and maybe few people who whenever they join online, they have a intent of learning something new. So maybe in 3 hours, if you have a 2 or 3 points to to think about later on when this webinar closes, so it'll be a great take for you. And then you must have a focus group. It is always better to talk about course, but course is not the only thing. And in BA, well, what you say, in graduation, all the years, you should have your focus group who are not only focusing on the syllabus, but also focusing uh, uh, the life outside, what you're going to do. When I was doing PhD, I went to Dehradun, and I was there in IIRS, Indian Institute of Remote Sensing. And there, a group of friends, we decided to open an NGO called Science, a Society for Conservation of Environment. And so that point, we got one small projects, and whatever the pocket money we had, we pulled in the resources. We started that NGO. So I worked there. I was founding member. I worked there, and then I moved out because I thought it is India is very big, so why not? I worked in Delhi and Bombay, and now working in Hyderabad. So you should have that. I mean, I'm not saying everyone should do this, but you should, if you have a very good friend, always have your society or an NGO where even if you are not an entrepreneur, at least if you have free time, you can go and teach classes. In GNU, I was doing it for the street people, for the street children nearby our university. Those who have a chance, they can go to so many. So whenever you free time, please try to devote. There's so much to work in India. In any field you take, there's so much of ideas, so much of, only your intent has to be positive, and you can be successful anywhere. So I'll move to another slide. Uh, innovation of Innovation and entrepreneurship. So there's a famous quote from the Schumpeter, like, he firmly expects his opinion that function of entrepreneurship is in innovation, but it can be product, it can be technology, it can be production methods, it can be new market, it can be new or it can be a new method altogether. There's another very disruptive technologies the student must have gone through, was called the blockchain. Although Bitcoin has put a dark clouds over this technology, but blockchain will be a very big in finance and agriculture. I'm not going to talk about IT in this forum and at present, but definitely there will be a game changer. Those who want to increase their skill also, they can go for it. And in entrepreneur, if you want to, you can also start up. Data scientist is a big opportunity, and you can learn even if you don't have a IT background. So in the beginning of my presentation, I was talking about the business plans. The business plan is a core, what do you say, heart of entrepreneur. And if you spend, although in bookish, we say you have to spend 200 or 300 hours to prepare the business plan, and it depends on an experience. But believe me, trust me, this is very important. This is the heart of your entrepreneur. If there's no concrete and a very good business plan, then the whole business can go haywire. I'm not going to discuss little bit because I have a few of the what do you say IT ministry. There's a field CSC and then CGG. Couple of slides which I wanted to share with you. And now I'll come back to the statistics of because I thought like I'll give a brief intro of entrepreneurship, and in second part I'll only discuss about the statistics, MSME, and the few few organizations we are working on it, and few other schemes which like Spurti I will talk about in detail. Only orally I'll talk, and slides are there, one or two, what our organization is doing. So to the statistics of MSME. So MSME sector accounts for approx 6.33 crore enterprises in various manufacturing and services. When we talk about MSME, of course, because whether we are providing services or the industry is manufacturing, both are included in MSME. Although world over we only use SME, we don't use M, but because in India the statistics are, as you can see in point 2, there are 6.3 crores micro enterprises. So we have prefixed the word micro. Although world over it is only SME, small medium enterprises, but as you can see from this, there are 99.4% micro. So that's why the micro is added. And you'll be happy to know, out of them 40% are women-led enterprises. Because now when we call about our great time, there was time when this men and women both were treated together, and any country will only go forward when there's a equal importance is giving to the woman. So it is great to learn that there are a lot of entrepreneurs are coming up from women who are coming up as an entrepreneur. And as you can see, because large population stayed in rural areas, and the Sufurti scheme is also basically focused on the rural areas. And out of total MSMEs, 59.5% are based in rural areas. And you can see 30%, 31% of India's GDP is derived from these MSMEs, and out of them 45% of exports, total exports, are done by MSMEs. Although there are other things like jewelry and everything, but they're also part of large unorganized. But these are all data are of the organized sector, because these unorganized sectors are not being taken account. These are only registered MSMEs. So these MSME have created 12.4 crores of job. You just see the number 12.4 will grow exponentially if a lot many people start, starting their small ventures in the PMEGPs types, where the loan amount is less, but the subsidy is 25%, which is quite handy. So there's another slide, like total number of MSMEs registered in Udyog Aadhaar is close to 95.033 lakhs. And states, you already know these, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Uttar Pradesh, they are also big, big states where a lot of MSME has registered. Uh, the union budget has earmarked an all-time high allocation of rupees 7,572 crore for the various MSME schemes only. As you know, this is very small amount, but there's been a lot of increase of past 3 4 years, and as we go move forward, and when there's a very important narrative by our PM for Atmanirbhar, we definitely going to see this number going increasing exponentially in another 4 5 years. We are very positive on that. So this was last point was only the intervention due to pandemic, so I'm not going to touch on that. I'll move to another slide. So these are the challenges. I mean, any entrepreneurship have challenges. These are the challenges faced by MSME. Uh, Absence of adequate and timely banking finance. So that this first point is very broadly felt in rural areas, because people are not very, what you say, IT friendly. So they don't know how to go about it, and how to file the finance, also papers for the finance for the business, or to their day-to-day use. I'll also share the slide of CSC Center for which is created by Ministry of IT, so that the last mile coverage in rural areas is covered under that particular thing, because that was the area which was lacking for past, say, two decades, where the IT revolution has taken place, is not penetrated and too much into the rural areas. But now with the CSC and other things coming, so lot many people in rural entrepreneurship will be getting a platform to sell their goods, or interact for the backward and forward integration of the entrepreneurship. Another problem faced by MSME is they face lots of obstacles in establishing and operating the enterprise. As I said, like sometime it is because of bureaucracy. Sometime also is it difficult to understand different schemes, different processes, because although the aim is to cut down, for example, earlier it was 70 different documents you have to submit in ease of doing businesses. Now it has come down to 15, but still so few people are not able to do that. So this is also one of the problem. Third point is the limited capital and knowledge of the business, and of the, it can be anything of the process, or maybe even the business plan, how to make it, how to go about it. Non availability of suitable technology. There's also this is also thing which has been taken care of on through the e-governance of the CSC, which is, I just said, like it is created by IT. Then there's a low production capacity. There's another MSME. Sometimes they invest too much. They won't sell, like it should give you 100%, but due to demand, the production is not to the level. So this is another problem faced by MSC. Inefficient marketing strategy. This is one of the biggest problem faced by majority of MSME in India. We are not, they are not getting enough platform, and lot been done and talked about on this thing. Uh, the fifth point is constraints on modernization and expansion. So few schemes, Suhurti is one of them, uh, where the government has provided grants of 90% to give to the artisans, to combine to combine themselves under one roof, and they can do their, for example, uh, I want to start there's a village, a nearby village of 15 villages. They want to come up for that um, jewelry. We called that a cluster. Cluster is in a similar activities, you know, and for For example, somebody want to start a jewelry cluster in village, so where they'll find a machine for polishing of that jewelry, or labeling of that jewelry, or various other things. So government is giving 90% grants where these jewelers will come under one roof called common facility centers, and various different machines will be installed in that compound, where all the members of that clusters can go and work and pay certain fees, and then then they market, or their products. So that's how that is the aim of the government to facilitate, because because this point has been taken care on few schemes. Another problem is non-availability of skilled labor at affordable cost, because you'll find all three different type of labors, non-skilled labor, semi-skilled labor, and skilled labor. So in rural areas, there most of the artisans are semi-skilled. So they are not very skilled on say for working on a machine, because they've never been trained on that. But majority of them are non-skilled. So that's why their production is very less. So this I can skip, because this is already covered in ease of doing business. India is improving a lot. I just mentioned, and Telangana has done a lot, but India was also improved many places, and India ranked 63 out of 190 countries in 2020. They have also moved from 100 something, 114 I think, to 63, which is also a big jump. So, second part is from 2014. If you see, like 6 years, we have jumped 79 places. uh, I'll skip this one also, and this is a little bit of cluster I wanted to cover over the Sfurti. There's a scheme in MSME. It called Sfurti, scheme of funds for regeneration of traditional industries. This is basically meant for rural artisans, where a farmers, how you can register in Sufurti, you have to be either a society, either you have to be a trust, either you can form a farmers company. So these are the two three type of platform where you can come together and work as a SPV. This is a what is SPV? SPV is special purpose vehicle, meant for particular cluster, or any small rural entrepreneur. If you want to start, then you can name it as special purpose vehicle. It can be also a special purpose vehicle can also be made by IT. CSC is one of them. But here I am only talking about the cluster. For cluster, SPV has to be the sole owner of that cluster, because when government is giving a 90% of grant, so what they do is the first two, three important steps you have to remember. First is the availability of the land. So anyone who want to start a cluster, he has to have a long lease of the land. Either they should own the land, either they can have a lease land, but lease agreement has to be of 15 years and onwards, because you know uh, government is giving 90% grant and is not the loan. So government is not going to take back that amount longer duration of what you say commitment of this farmer. So earlier it was started like that, but now because they are poor artisan, they are not going to able to contribute 10%. So what the government is doing is, okay, they are also allowing other people to invest. From outside investor can come and invest 50%, and once the cluster is functioning, they can exit. So these are the few clusters which are working. Bhatinda has a similar process in Punjab. In Jharkhand, we are having almost 6, 7. We are also working Telangana. Uh, and another one point I wanted to highlight is Kondapalli Wooden Toys Craft Cluster, Andhra Pradesh. Recently there have been in Ladakh, there have been problem with China. So a PM has given a special directive of Atmanirbhar. He said, like, we should start more clusters on toys. It can be wooden, it can be clay, it can be any material, but we have to focus on their production. So this is we should not only talk in newspaper, we should actually have a action happening on the ground. So this is just a point I wanted to share. Although there can be bamboo cluster, there can be gold silver cluster, there can be handloom cluster, there can be garment clusters, which can be ready made. There can be even hilly areas. There can be recently the mushroom also, that is also been included in Sapurti. Earlier there was not. Then there's a big market of choir which is there in Kerala, Tamil Nadu, West Bengal. There's a lot of clusters are promoting a bit of choir also. So I'll quickly, because I've taken a lot of time, I think I'll just skip fast. There's a CSC which I was talking. This is a special purpose vehicle created by Ministry of IT. So what is their role? They're helping the rural areas in their bank education, banking, account. G2C is government to citizen, B2C is business to citizen. How to go digital means, for example, somebody has to file a IT return, or say, for example, giving road tax. Sometime even in sending money, they are finding problem, and this CSC is also they are helping in the e-commerce. So I'm going to focus on this. CSC Academy has tie-up with Udemy, Topper, Symbiosis, and Extra for the e-learning. This is I'm talking about CSC, which are exclusively really focusing in the rural areas. So they are already having a 4,000 CSC, what you say, academies across India. So this CSC SPV have been working with many banks, SBI, HDFC Bank, the various banks, where they give a one-stop solution for the poor, for the people in rural areas. So I'll quickly running through that because I've taken, I think, a lot of time. CSC can also help with different various MSME to file GST, because once the entrepreneurship is there in rural areas, definitely they have to file GST, and there is a lot of clarity. Many people still don't understand too much about the GST and how to file those things. Uh, so this is their the aim is to have a digital seva centers in every gram panchayat, which to help MSME. This is the aim of Ministry of IT. I just wanted to share so that the large students and large person can to know how the schemes are working and what is their outreach. Uh, Another thing you will observe in this slide is the CSC has developed a Dhwani. What is Dhwani means? Like, if you want to promote a rural entrepreneurship in rural areas, you can have a voice, what you say, advertisement. Usually we see advertisement of videos and audios, but these are all very costly when done on TV or say FM and all those things. But for poor artisan, they don't have so much of money. This is very economical to have a dhwani. Like, you can advertise through the radio, so they are going to help you on this thing. Dhwani, CSC Dhwani. Another is like they have started one thing called Grameen e-store. We have heard, Amazon, Flipkart, and recently JioMart have also joined of Reliance. But the CSC particularly creating that store for the both for the demand and supply of the rural artisans. So it is called as Grameen e-store. So they have already done a lot of the business. The last time I heard in the presentation, they have already done 270 crore transaction till now in rural area, which is quite a number for there. So this is another Telangana dashboard, how they have done ease of business. This is one slide I wanted to share with you. So now there's another innovation done in Telangana. What was done in PM street vendors? You have seen a lot of street vendors on their hand cart or makeshift, but we have a very large people dependent on their livelihood through that. What these have done is they have created an app. This app is developed by organization in Hyderabad called Center of Good Governance. So they have created this app. Then they will be getting IDs, and through that they will have it is for the street vendors. If they don't have any, since they don't have any bank account, cannot get a finance. interface between banks, government, and the vendors to make them atmanirbhar, so that they can sell fruits or the vegetables or some handicrafts or some small say items. So to make them atmanirbhar, this is also a unique example to make you happy to feel and listen and feel happy. Like so much of being done in India. So this was one of the example, and this is how it is interface on the mobile. It is there in the local language of Hyderabad. So now Patana Patana Pragati, like it is a street vendor. So thank you from myself. I'll open to questions. And one more question. I have few point I wanted to talk about Sfurti. Sfurti scheme, usually they have a two intervention. One is called hard intervention and the soft intervention. Hard intervention is all about your, for example, there's a building which is called common facility center. It will have all the machine in there, whatever the machines you want to that. So for that we have to make a DPR and upload. It is, and then another good thing is you have to upload that to the ministry side. There's no physical file and all. You have to upload, and there are three agencies which are responsible. Them Vishaka madam was talking there yesterday. There was a presentation from their institute, and they're also technical agency working in various areas. So there are three agency involved. One is nodal agency. I am from the Msme. We are nodal agency. There are 8 and 9 nodal agencies in India. Then we have to have a technical agency. Then third is the implementing agency. Another thing is nodal agency can work across India. Technical agency can work across India. Usually implementation agency can be private, government, but their operations are within the state only. And in that, for example, if it is a 500 farmers, then there are a smaller cluster, and the limit of that project has to be 2.5 crore. If there are more than 500 farmers and close to 1000 farmers, then there's a large clusters, and the maximum allocation is 5 crore. So out of 5 crore, roughly I'm giving example. For example, if your hard intervention is 4.3 crore, so government is going to give 90% of grant, and only 10%, which is 43 lakh, has to be contribution for people those who are part of clusters. So this is also a very important scheme, because we are giving a lot many. I am also involved with a few clusters in Punjab and in Andhra and in Jharkhand, and it is very happy to learn when when I started Hoshiarpur cluster of wooden inlay. So I was very happy to know there was 150 families who were given jobs due to this cluster, and it will spread across 15 villages. So that is very pleasing for me. I also left my high flying corporate job, and I'm also very keen from my heart and otherwise to involve with the cluster people and rural artisan. I hope I was able to motivate few of the students to start some rural entrepreneurship. Thank you, madam, from my side. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, Dr. Gill, for a very elaborate presentation, which is deeply rooted in lot of practical experiences. Now the platform is open for discussion with your permission. If you permit, there are few questions and few participants want to directly interact with you, sir. Dr. Pradipta, we have unmuted you from our side. Kindly unmute and go ahead with your question.
Thank you, Binita ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes, yes, you're audible. Please go ahead.
Thank you for this opportunity for asking the question to the distinguished panelist. I was keenly following his presentation. One thing which is haunting my mind is that, sir, I am forgetting your name, sir, the distinguished
Dr.
panel.
Gill, Dr.
Dr.
Gill.
Gill, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, you might be knowing that this pandemic, the present pandemic, has worstly affected the unorganized sector. And what is worrying that the unorganized sector would take a lot more time to stand on its own, especially in as we understand the impact of the this COVID-19 on the unorganized sector. So what the Atmanirbhar Bharat, what boost it provides to unorganized sector as far as the entrepreneurship development is concerned, and how MSME is helping the young and upcoming entrepreneurs. This is one question, and the supplementary one is that how to it's something which is remotely related with entrepreneurship development, because a good encouraging work environment is also needed for entrepreneurship development. So how to deal with a very hostile and unfriendly work environment? These are two questions that I want to put. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you, Pradipta. Yeah, I'll first pick up the second point because first point is little longer. In e-governance, when we were all facing a lockdown, and first thing we were doing, we were asked to download that app, and then we were approaching for the e-passes. So a lot of bureaucratic interferences are going away because of EODB. Lot many processes are being fine-tuned in Telangana and other states, but there are many states which have been laggard, they are not come up. So that is one of the areas. uh, Definitely there are many challenges, but still e-governance have solved many of them, and I think in due course much more ease of doing business will be there. And coming to the point one, yes, the unorganized sector is the biggest and the most affected. And one more point I wanted to refer to your question is, earlier the MSME were facing a lot of problem, and their grievances were not addressed in one particular given time. For example, if you had some problem with your MSME, you filed your complaint in the beginning of August. There was no ending when you will get the answer. To solve that problem, they have started MSME champions, where your grievances will be redressed within 1 week. So that is also one of the very good initiatives started on that platform. So it is advised, if you or your friends are having any issues with that, kindly register your grievance on that, so that they are redressed, at the shortest possible time. Another problem which we were talking about, unorganized sector. Yeah, we are also advising them, if two or three people like that, they can come together and pool their resources, they can what you say, combine their forces, come out of it. Otherwise it become very difficult, survive of their own. So combining your resources is the only solution during this pandemic. Thank you. I hope I am able to answer your question.
Thank you, Dr. Gill. There is one more question on IPR. I'm not very sure whether it falls within your jurisdiction or not. The question is, what is the procedure to get a patent in IPR in academic writing? What type comes under IPR? If possible, if you can respond to this.
Ma'am, I don't have a total knowledge on IPR, but there are 5 or 6 different section in IPR. One is the design, one is technology, one is that. There are I'm not very sure about that, but yeah, education institute, you can have a copyright, but I don't know about the IPR. Copyrights are there in education, I'm sure, but IPR is somewhere where you can have a product where you can market. It can be technology, it can be some process, it can be some design. These are 2 3 things I know. I don't know much about that.
Okay, sir. Sir, there's one more question that most of the teachers, like this was the initial question, most of the teachers are from a rural background, our participants as well. So, what do you suggest to the participants who are teachers to strengthen the rural entrepreneurship?
Ma'am, there are also question of connectivity in the rural enterprise, but if their area, particular area I'm referring, if they are able to connect through them, and one more area which I wanted to highlight is, like, if it is a government uh, agency, they can request Department of Space for a satellite link. So, and satellite link is very important. It's not dependent on the internet. You can access in the rural areas also, and you can have a very large what you say, section of people attending to that. So that is one area where you can we can impart classes, and you can do the mentoring part. Second is of course through internet, but then internet is not very robust in the rural enterprise. But there are also various platforms where they can host almost 100 people free of cost, like webex and all. So they can conduct first is the mind share. So for example, if I want to encourage people in, for example, Telangana, I have to have a mind share with like minded people to tell them what to do, how to do, and where to go. So once these things are there, then definitely there'll be some motivation. They can start and they can interact. What I require at that point is mentoring. So mentoring is a long process, and this is all I wanted to share
Sir,
about that.
there is one more question from like university, Bayero University, Kano, Nigeria. The participant is Jamilu Rabiu. He or she, I'm not very sure, I'm very sorry. Jamilu is asking that in your presentation you have mentioned about the role of entrepreneurs in economic development, and in that you mentioned about backward and forward linkages. Can you please shed some more light on that point?
Uh, why I talk about economic development? Because any entrepreneur will involve, the input will be the resources, and the output will be some products. In any economic development, for example, if you take the example of Japan doesn't have a resources. They import resources from India and another developing countries and export us the final product, which is very expensive. So if we, for example, if we start making that thing within India, it will decrease the our foreign currency and increase our production, which is in result help the economic development. And the second thing is backward integration. What I mean by backward integration is the raw material required for your business, the finances required for your business, the resource persons required for the business. And the forward integration I meant to say was your marketing, how you're going to market your project comes in forward integration. Who are your buyers? What is the tie-up? You know, so these are the backward and forward integration tie-ups.
Yes, sir. Uh, One last question, sir, because we are closely approaching lunchtime, and I will not take much time of yours. One last question is, during lockdown period, lot of emphasis was on MSME. So, what role do you see of MSME in coming one decade?
Uh, as as I discussed during the presentation also, ma'am, like the aim of our present government is to have a 5 trillion economy by 2025. Maybe this pandemic will extend that 1 or 2 years more, maybe 2027 and all. If you want to increase, if you want to go to that level, say all out of 5 trillion, 2 trillion has to come from MSME. That is the, because if we cannot make that happen, then we are not going to go till $5 trillion. So MSME role is very important at present. I also through one slide I showed the statistics of large people in large number of employment coming from the MSME, and we want it to double. That is the directive from the government. And for that can only come through MSME, because tertiary sector services, due to the pandemic, jobs and other projects coming from the developed countries will narrow down. So those services will be less. As I shared my experience in 2008, I was working in Bombay due to that financial crisis. British Telecom mapping we were doing. We were supposed to map whole of the Britain, but the Britain stopped 40% after 40% mapping of the Britain. So that's how these pandemic, they disrupt. So, but if we are having, because in India, world over is known for a country which are very large people, large number of consumers. We are very big consumer nation. So if we start developing within India, the MSME, the product will be consumed by our citizens. So this is going to give employment also, and those who are earning, definitely they'll spend more, and that in turn will increase the consumers.
Yes, sir. Sir, thank you so much, sir, for not only a very detailed and elaborate presentation on the role of MSME and with specific reference to Spurti, but also very patiently responding to all the queries. And we look forward for listening to you more and more in future, because as our Honorable Prime Minister and Honorable Nitin Gadkari ji also has said that there is the future belongs to MSME sector, and in lockdown period also lot of emphasis went on that. So thank you so much, Dr. Gurpreet Singh Gill Sahab, for being part of this webinar series. In fact, entrepreneurship governance is a huge area, and we try to bring the best of the speakers within the available time. So I once again thank you, Dr. Gill, for being part of this. And I thank all our esteemed participants, and also our honorable speakers, Professor Kk Pandeyji, as well as Madam Vishakha Renaji, for being part of this. My dear friends, our next edition is scheduled on 4th of September, which will be like the fifth edition. The link has already been posted in the chat box. It is also posted in the WhatsApp group as well as the Telegram group. I request all of you to please join for the fifth and sixth editions as well. So thank you so much, Dr. Gill, and thank you all the participants. And my heartfelt thanks to Council for Green Revolution, Mr. Yashwant, Dr. Lakshma Reddy ji, Madam Leela Lakshma Reddy ji, and my very, very dear good friend, Dr. Priya, for her constant support throughout this series. Thank you so much, dear participants. And with this note, we end for today. We call it a day. Kalpana Singh, you have a question that we have to register. No, the for last two editions you have only one registration form. You can register only once for that. So looking forward for your continuous support. Thank you all. Have a great day. Have a great evening. Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much.